Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is your little corner for learning English through meaningful conversations about real life, real emotions, and the small things that quietly shape who we become.
And today, we're talking about something that feels very modern, very common, and very exhausting.
Yes, today's topic is noise. Not just sound, not just traffic, not just people talking too loudly on the phone in public.
Although that is also a problem.
It is. But today, we mean a deeper kind of noise. Mental noise, emotional noise, the endless stream of input, pressure, distraction, urgency, and expectation that follows people through the day.
The kind of noise that doesn't always make a sound, but still leaves you tired.
Exactly. Because many people are not only physically busy, they are mentally crowded. Their attention is always being pulled somewhere. Their thoughts are interrupted before they can fully form. Their minds rarely get to rest in one place for very long.
And what makes it difficult is that this kind of noise often looks normal. It looks like checking your phone during breakfast. It looks like listening to something while answering messages. It looks like finishing one task and instantly jumping to the next without taking a breath.
Yes. And after a while, people start living inside that rhythm without even realizing what it is doing to them.
They don't always have one dramatic crisis. They just feel strangely disconnected, irritable, tired in a way that sleep doesn't fully fix.
And that's what we want to explore today. How a noisy life affects you. Why quiet matters more than people think. And how small daily choices can help you create a calmer inner world.
Not a perfect life.
No.
Not a silent cabin in the forest with herbal tea and no Wi-Fi.
Although that does sound tempting.
Deeply tempting.
But no. We're talking about something more realistic. How ordinary people can build small moments of calm into ordinary days.
I think one of the strangest things about modern life is that people can go through an entire day without a single truly quiet moment.
Yes. And not because they chose that. Often it just happens automatically. The day begins with an alarm, then notifications, then messages, then plans, then noise from the outside world, then noise from your own thoughts.
And before you know it, your attention already belongs to everything except yourself.
That's such an important point. Sometimes the problem is not only that life is hard. Sometimes the problem is that life is too loud for you to hear yourself think.
And when that happens, people often become reactive.
Exactly. If you are reactive, you are not really choosing how to move through the day. You are mostly responding to messages, requests, delays, interruptions, pressure, noise, and other people's moods.
Yes, you are no longer shaping the day. The day is shaping you.
And that can leave a person feeling scattered.
Scattered is a great word here. If you feel scattered, your attention and energy feel spread in too many directions at once. You are present everywhere and nowhere at the same time.
Exactly. You open one app, then another. You start one task, then remember a different one. You try to rest, but your mind is still running. You sit down, but internally you are still standing in the middle of traffic.
That image is painfully accurate.
And the danger is that people get used to that state. They begin to think that constant mental noise is just normal adulthood.
Yes, they think feeling distracted tense, and vaguely overwhelmed all the time is simply what grown-up life feels like.
When actually, a lot of that feeling comes from a nervous system that never really gets a chance to settle.
I think many people are uncomfortable with quiet because they misunderstand it.
Yes, they hear quiet and imagine boredom, or loneliness, or a lack of stimulation. But real quiet is not emptiness. It is space.
That's beautiful. Quiet is space.
Because when life becomes too crowded, space is exactly what the mind is missing. Space to notice, space to feel, space to process what is actually happening inside you.
And without that space, everything starts to blur together. Your work stress blends into your evening. Your evening blends into your sleep. Your sleep blends into the next morning. Nothing really begins or ends.
Yes. And that creates a strange emotional fog. You keep functioning, but you don't feel clear.
Fog is a very good word for that state. Not a breakdown. Not chaos. Just a kind of dull internal blur.
Exactly. And quiet helps clear that fog. Not because it solves every problem, but because it helps you come back into contact with yourself.
Which is something a lot of people do not realize they've lost.
Yes, they are in conversation all day, but not with themselves. They are informed, updated, entertained, connected, and still somehow deeply out of touch with what they actually need.
And that is why quiet can feel so powerful. It gives you a chance to notice what all the noise was covering up.
So let's talk about what mental noise actually does to a person.
Well, first, it reduces your capacity to be present.
Yes, when your attention is constantly fragmented, even pleasant moments become harder to fully experience. You eat without tasting much. You listen without fully absorbing. You rest without really relaxing.
You are technically there, but not entirely available.
Exactly. And over time, that can make life feel oddly flat.
It can also make small tasks feel heavier than they really are.
That's true. When your mind is overloaded, even simple decisions begin to feel annoying. What to cook? What to wear? What to reply? When to leave? Which task to do first? None of it is huge, but all of it starts to feel like too much.
Because noise doesn't always create dramatic suffering. Sometimes it just creates friction.
Yes, friction is the perfect word. That subtle drag, that low-level resistance, the feeling that everything in the day takes more out of you than it should.
And when that friction builds up, people often become short-tempered, less patient, less kind, less emotionally spacious.
Which makes sense. It is very hard to be grounded when your inner environment feels crowded all the time.
So the question becomes, how do you live in a noisy world without becoming noisy inside?
I think the first step is very simple, but very important. Stop filling every gap.
Yes, that habit is everywhere. A free minute appears, and people immediately reach for a screen, a task, a podcast, a message, a distraction.
As if every empty space must be occupied immediately.
Exactly. But sometimes those tiny spaces are the beginning of calm.
Yes. Waiting in line without checking your phone. Sitting with your tea for 2 extra minutes. Walking to the kitchen without bringing content with you. Looking out of the window instead of instantly stimulating your brain again.
That sounds so small, but it really matters.
It does. Because calm often enters quietly. It does not always arrive in a perfect meditation session. Sometimes it arrives in a pause you did not interrupt.
That line is wonderful.
And then there is another important habit: do one thing at a time more often.
A radical concept in this century.
Truly radical, but helpful. Drink your coffee without also reading upsetting news. Eat lunch without answering messages. Finish one task before opening 3 others. Let some experiences stay whole.
I love that phrase. Let some experiences stay whole.
Because constant fragmentation teaches the brain to live in pieces. And after a while, your energy starts to feel broken into pieces too.
And that's when even the day off doesn't feel restful. Because your attention has forgotten how to settle. I think one of the kindest things a person can do for themselves is to soften the edges of the day.
Yes, the beginning and the ending matter so much.
Because if you begin the day abruptly and end it abruptly, your whole life starts to feel like one long rush.
Exactly. So maybe the morning begins with less input, less grabbing, less scrolling, less urgency. Maybe you let yourself wake up before the world rushes in.
And maybe the evening becomes less crowded too. Lower lights, fewer screens, less emotional chaos right before sleep.
Because the mind needs signals. It needs help understanding when to rise and when to soften.
And so many people say they want peace. But then they spend their final hour of the day arguing mentally with emails, headlines, strangers online, and unfinished tasks.
Yes, their body is in bed, but their nervous system is still in the office, on the train, in the group chat, and halfway through tomorrow.
That is incredibly real.
And that is why a gentle evening routine matters. Not because it is trendy, but because it helps you return to yourself before the day ends.
There is also something else worth saying here. Calm is often misunderstood.
Very much so. Some people think calm means laziness, or a lack of ambition, or emotional passivity.
When in reality, calm can be a form of strength.
Yes, because staying connected to yourself in a loud world requires intention. It requires boundaries. It requires the ability to say, not every voice gets access to my attention.
That is such a powerful sentence.
And it's true. Your attention is valuable. Your energy is limited. Your inner life deserves better than constant invasion.
So a calmer life is not a smaller life. It is often a more deliberate life.
Exactly. Less random, less reactive, less scattered, more conscious, more rooted, more alive.
So maybe the goal is not to escape the world completely.
No, most people cannot do that. And most people do not need to.
Maybe the goal is simply to stop handing over every corner of your mind to noise.
Yes. To protect a few quiet spaces, a slower morning, a calmer lunch, a short walk without input, a gentler evening, a few moments in the day where you are not consuming, not reacting, not performing, just existing.
And maybe that is where clarity begins.
I think so. Because a calmer life is not built all at once. It is built in moments, in pose, in choices that look small from the outside but feel different on the inside.
And that may be the most important part. Real change is not always dramatic. Sometimes it simply sounds quieter.
That feels like the perfect place to pause.
Yes. So if life has been feeling mentally loud lately, Maybe you do not need to rebuild everything overnight.
Maybe you only need to protect a little more space,
A little more quiet,
a little more room to breathe.
and a little less noise that never truly belonged to you in the first place.
Thank you for listening.
We're so glad you were here. See you next time.